All right, welcome back, everybody. The post-game show is live now. Frank Fear here, Greg Christ. We appreciate you tuning in and joining us. And pretty good showing today, Frank. We're uh, uh, got some questions answered, I think, and looked fairly decent the second half. Uh, I think we said Mike might have fallen asleep. I'm not going to lie, I dozed off for a second in the second half there for a minute, but I thought it was pretty good second half.
Yeah, it was a tale of two cities, wasn't it? A little bit concerned there with the fumbles in the first half, but hey, it's the first game of the season. What was really unusual, obviously, was that the fumbles were all from the receivers, not the running backs or the quarterback. But be that as it may, but yeah, then turned it around.
Well, I had said, I think that this goes to show. I said the pregame that I thought turnovers had to take care of the football would be key, and you have four in the first half, and you saw you saw the score 10-3. We didn't turn over in the second half, and we rolled on through with it. So those turnovers. Once we even with the turnovers there in the first half, I don't think you ever felt like we were going to lose or anything like that. You just felt like, well, it should be 27-3 instead of 10-3, and we were moving the ball well. Our defense was stellar. And I don't think there was any concern about the game itself. It's just, you can't polish it off with the turnovers. You can't score points if you don't have the ball. And that was the first half. Second half, I thought the offense held the ball and they moved the ball like they had from the beginning and took care of business in that second half. But my takeaway is that I thought our defense played very well. I thought the offense was efficient and did what it had to do, but I thought the defense looked really, really good. I was pleasantly surprised with that. There's Mike.
Yep, and it was good to see Kelly McCourt there too.
Yeah. Hi, Kelly. Send us a little message. Mike, welcome back in.
How's it going, fellas?
Good.
Thank God we didn't do a halftime show, Mike. It would have been a down halftime show.
Mike, go ahead and give us your thoughts there on that game. And I know I think we got you connected good. What's your thoughts?
I mean, I'm gonna say it's a tale of two halves to start with, especially for the offense. But they did what they needed to do today. They won a game they needed to win. I thought the defense looked so much better this year than so far last year, and they made some good stops. And usually the defense can take off a little sooner than the offense. It takes the offense a little bit to get moving. So, I'll give them a little bit, but we can't turn the ball over. Obviously, that's if it was somebody else out there, that's 3 major turnovers. I don't know if that might be 21 more points against you, against a real tough person like maybe Utah or Pitt. So overall, pretty good day. Definitely, there's a lot to work on, and a lot of people got to play late in the fourth, so that was good for the younger fellas, and a win's a win. You take them any way you can get them. But a lot to learn, a lot of film to break down. And the defensive line played pretty good today. The offensive line played pretty good today. And we got to, obviously we got to hold on to the ball. So, and we got some turnovers too. So that's a big deal. So turnovers are critical. So anytime that you can, get the ball back, and maybe get 7 or 10 points on the board, boy, you might win like 85% of the time if you get those turnovers and convert to touchdowns or field goals. So special teams played pretty good too today. So there's that third. You got to have that third, especially early in the game. I didn't know what we're going to do. We're going to have a slugfest or what. So But they
Yeah.
opened it up in the second half, and that they did what they needed to do. So
Yeah, I thought, strengths. I thought, the good sides. I thought the running backs, the running game looked good. We ran the ball well. Our receivers caught the ball. Made some nice catches and handled the ball. So that was a positive. I thought the line did a pretty good job. Nico was solid. The backup quarterbacks that came in were solid. They all looked good.
Yep.
And you mentioned the special teams. Of course, Preston Fox had an outstanding game, and he's sure-handed back there, but he can run too, and he showed that today. But one of the things I noticed on our kickoff coverage, especially, was we were flying around to the ball, and I thought that was a good thing to see. Last year, it seemed like
Absolutely.
we were always kind of like just waiting on them to come to us to make the plays. But it looked like today that we were very aggressive on that kickoff team, really getting after it. I was pleased about that. Also thought our defensive backs covered very well. Our defensive line did a heck of a job. They shut down the run. What we give up there, 20 yards in the first half, and I think it was 100 and maybe 130 yards in the whole game. So the defensive line played well. The defensive backs played well. A lot of positives, I thought. And like you said, a lot of folks got playing time. And I think he saw some bright spots in that. And some of those backups look pretty good. So I thought overall this game served its purpose. We did what we had to do. We went out and took care of business. And we got to see a lot of people. We got to see some different things. And we got some questions answered. So I think this game, Frank, I think it served its purpose.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking at the stats now, 625 yards. Wouldn't have predicted that in the first half. But, one of the things we talked about was long drives. And the Mountaineers did that, 83 yards, 75 yards, et cetera, et cetera. And, a lot of the hoopla over Cam Vaughn, he's the real deal. Boy, is he a talent. And we talked in the pregame show about Braden Siders. Fred Perry played a great game, Darian Lewis. And to your point about the defensive line, Mike, that quarterback had no time to throw. And in fact, let me pull it up. His final numbers were he was 7 for 21, 33%. 7 for 21, 70 yards. Whereas Nico, let me pull that up. Nico was 17 for 20, 75% for 224 yards. So that offense last year, the offense was just not consistent, and the defense was porous. And in the second half, we saw a very consistent offense, and the defense was strong, kept the offense in the game in the first half. And now we're going to have a mighty number two, because Ohio, I was again looking at some of their stats. We'll talk about it later, but there's going to be a formidable foe up in Athens.
Absolutely. Ohio, they're gonna want to bring the noise too. So it'll be another good test for the Mountaineers. That's for sure. Away in a hostile environment, and it'll just be everything that you'll think it's going to be. So they gave Rutgers, like you said earlier in the show, they gave them all they can handle. So.
Yeah, we got a comment from Mark Parsons there. Things to work on. Again, when you have an opponent like this, sometimes it's hard to see and tell the things that you need to work on. And when you have such a dominating performance, you think, well, what do we work on? But I think ball security obviously is going to be a huge one. I think no question about
Absolutely.
that. And no question about that. And a couple other things here and there. I saw that they'll probably you want to work out some things on the offensive line, but really I thought that other than the fumbling, we played a pretty solid game. We didn't have a ton of penalties. We did have a few bad times, but played a pretty clean game. And Nico had a great game. Our receivers caught the ball well. And then defensively, I just thought the defense just dominated the game. So a lot of positives, and I'm sure the coaches, when they get in and break down the film, we'll see. I know I was a coach and a basketball coach. We could win by 20, and I still found 15 things to be bitching about. So I'm sure the coaches will find plenty on the film that they'll want to work on and get right. Mike, you've been through that. You know that and how that works. I'm sure there's going to be plenty that they'll find to work on.
Well, the bottom line is you can if you had 80 plays in the game, so to speak, you could have done 75 plays that were awesome, but then 5 plays you'd like back, and sometimes those 5 plays cost you the game. It's just that simple. Now, for all the guys that fumbled the ball, back in the day, at least in my high school time, if guys fumbled the ball, they had to carry that ball through school, and the whole school tried to take that ball out from their hand. They had to carry it with their books in the hallway. So, maybe attention on Mountaineers. Maybe these guys that fumble balls, y'all need to attack them in their classes, walking to class, going to a school, going down the street, players and or fans, just to, we got to emphasize ball control. You give the wrong person, if you give the wrong team the ball, that score could go wonky on you really fast, man. I mean, it's not even funny. So you give that ball away, that's a big deal. So ball control.
Yeah. Obviously, that's, I think, the biggest thing. And Mark pointed out, I felt like the offensive line might need to get a little better push. I can see that. I understand that. Our red zone was a lot better. You mentioned that is true as well. We took, we got down there, we scored when we didn't turn it over. But I think that he's correct in. And again, sometimes it's hard to tell, in this Rodriguez offense about an offensive line push because they do so much zone blocking and they run those, I always call them angles. They run those angles and then find a gap with that zone blocking. So it's kind of hard to tell about the push, but I do agree, with Mark on that. But definitely the turnover thing has got to be obviously corrected. No question about that.
That's bad news. He did it again.
Did you put that up there, Mickey?
He did it again.
Hey, I hate to say this, but I was hoping for a Robert Morris score there at the end. I thought that might get me a little bit closer.
Yeah, it would have, but they didn't, and Mickey won again, and it's just we will have him gloat on Wednesday night. But yeah. To the point that Mark's raising here, I went back and deconstructed, so to speak, analyzed the performance against Rutgers, and I was going to say something that I won't say because I want to be positive, but they're not a loaded team in terms of depth, but they have some really good athletes. Their quarterback is outstanding. He was the leading rusher against Rutgers, as well as obviously the guy doing the passing. And they have a couple of guys that pretty much were way ahead of the others in terms of on the defense side. And so I think one of the things that came out of today's game for Ohio, there are a lot of Mountaineers that can hurt you, both offensively and defensively. With Ohio, it's a matter of, it's like a basketball game. You know who the scorers and the rebounders are, and you got to concentrate on them. And so Ohio is a really good team. They've won, I think now they've won 11 out of their last 15 games. But it is not as much depth with a MAC team that you would expect, for example, with a Power 5 team.
Yeah, and I think you saw that today as well with the depth. I thought that we moved the ball up and down the field, take away those fumbles. That could have been the halftime score possibly. And I just thought that as the game wore on, especially later in the game, we just were having our way with them. And I think that depth, proved to be a huge advantage for us. And I think, I mentioned in the pregame that, when you go up in a program level, it's like you take an Alabama, for example, or today, maybe you should say Florida State, they lose their right tackle. They bring in a second team All-American backup. And that's a lot of times the difference in games is the depth factor. And I thought that was important for today, that we got people in the game, give them some experience, give them some playing time in a live game. And, the depth, really the backups, when those guys came in, if you noticed, even when, before the game got out of hand, some of the linemen were changed out and that sort of thing. They played well. So I think that was important, and that depth is vital. I think that will be a big advantage for us against Ohio, is the depth factor. And again, Mike, I'll throw it to you and let you comment on that.
Absolutely. Anytime you can reload your gun chamber with another bullet that's going to be just as effective as the first guy, and so on and so forth. I mean, that's the deal. I mean, it's the next guy up mentality is really the key to the success of any good team. And the next guy up needs to just go in here and do the job that he can do, and the best job he can do. And I expect excellence from all of them. So the depth is a big deal, and then experience with depth is even more a big deal. And this is the time to get it, because you don't know who or when you might need to call on. You just want to make sure you got enough talent on the sideline to plug and play when ready. So that's how I see that.
Yeah, I thought another point I didn't notice, I didn't see a lot, but I didn't notice any injuries to Mountaineers today, which was a good thing. You always worry about that in a game like this. Injuries happen in football. That's just the way it is, no matter who you're playing. I didn't see a lot of that today, Frank. I don't know if you noticed anything or not, but I didn't see a lot of Mountaineers limping off. I thought that was a good sign too.
Yeah, a not so good sign from my perspective. We talked about in the pregame show, we still have a hell of a time getting that ball in the end zone on kickoffs. Yeah. I think we only had one touchback, and you're just tempting fate by not getting that ball. I didn't look at the wind in the stadium, but it didn't seem to make much of a difference which direction right. Ethan Head was kicking off, and that is an issue. But as you said, I think it was compensated, or at least balanced, by the great job in terms of particularly kickoff returns, but also punt returns too. He did a terrific job. Preston Fox did, and Cade Hensley did a very serviceable job. One field goal attempt, he made it. That's good, but I think that's an area to work on. You got to get that ball in the end zone. Do not have the other team run the ball back.
Yeah, and that was noticeable. His kicks were either right on the goal line or about 5-yard line, somewhere in that area. That was problematic last year. Again, though, it was covered up today by the good coverage on the special teams coming down, and that's one thing. Like I said earlier, I noticed it just seemed like we were a lot more aggressive, going after the ball on those kickoffs and punts than what we were last year. It just seemed like last year we waited on, that flow to come to us and got us in trouble. Today it just seemed like that we were, a lot more aggressive. And, on that point, I felt like the whole team overall, I think we talked a lot about the toughness and that brand of toughness coming back to WVU, the Mountaineer football mindset. I felt like today you could see, and maybe it's just me just being overly optimistic, but it just seemed to me like we were so much quicker, so much faster to the ball, so many people flying to the ball, throwing their bodies in there. It just seemed like we were so much more aggressive today than what we have been over the past few years, which I thought was great. And again, it might have just been me thinking that, but it sure did look that way to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mike, I was thinking, I don't think we mentioned Chase Wilson in the pregame show, and I'm looking at the stats now. He had six total tackles, 2 solos, 1 sack, and 1 tackle for loss. And I don't think we mentioned Hammond Russell either. Hammond Russell had 4 total tackles and 2.5 yards, 2.5 tackles for losses, and 2 sacks. On the other side, and I'll stop with this, we did talk about Israel Boyce, the free safety, 2 total tackles, 1 solo. So I think we need better play out of the free safety position.
Yeah, I think the D line all together played very well. I seen a lot of penetration. I seen the pocket collapse, and which is what needs to happen to constrict that whole front to where they, then they go get what they need to get, the quarterback. And it looked really good the first day,
Yep.
first game and the first day out there. So that was impressive. Going back to the special teams, just remember it's it's the biggest third out of all the thirds. It's a third for special teams, it's a third for offense, and it's a third for defense. And let me tell you, if you lack in any one of those departments, you will lose the game. So special teams is big. That's a third. Anything that you can control is a big deal. And special teams, you have to win that game on special teams. You have to win on defense. And you have to win on offense. Because there's sometimes everybody's not going to be on the same page. So somebody's got to pull. It's a push and pull thing. But the more efficient you are, obviously, we all know this, the more efficient you are at each one of those situations, the better chance you have to win, because it is truly a game of inches. I mean, and you really do fight for every inch on that field. You can't give them an inch. You can't even give them a quarter inch. You just got to keep fighting and gnawing and going and back and forth, and to own that space. You got to own that space on that field. And you do that for 60 minutes, I guarantee you're probably going to win that game. So good day for the most part of this game. So
Right.
And another thing too that I noticed, speaking of the defense, one was that we only had 1 breakdown back in the defensive backfield. We gave up that 1 pass for 10, 15 yards on a 3rd down when a receiver got real open. It looked like a breakdown in coverage. That's the only time I saw that happen, all day. And of course, the defensive line was getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback, but when he did have time, we were covered, and they covered well, and that was good to see. I just thought we did a good job back there. The defensive backs, I thought, played a lot better. I thought our linebackers, and the name slips me now, one linebacker, I can't remember his name. Number 10, I can't remember his name, but Frank, if you could look at it for me real quick, I thought played a very good game as far as the linebackers were concerned. So, I thought the defense, the defensive backs did well and played well, and our linebackers were good too. But I think, again, a lot of that credit goes to the defensive line. It just seemed like they had pressure on him, and even when they didn't get to him, they were flushing him out and making him throw it quick and that sort of thing. So, that was encouraging. But even better was the fact that we didn't have any breakdowns back here. We talked a lot about the schematics, and I'll tell you another thing too that looked different to me was the pressure we come with the blitzes. Last year when we would blitz, it seemed like we would blitz, but it seemed like we would never get anybody through. It was just like we just blitzed one man and they had somebody to block him. Today it seemed like when we did blitz, we always had people getting through quick and getting to the quarterback. So that was a good sign as well.
Yeah, that was Braden Siders. We talked about him before, and he's a transfer from Wyoming. And Fred Perry also, you could see they just a lot of speed. And the other thing is they have a nose for the ball, and that being able to anticipate. That's high football IQ. The other thing I wanted to mention too is that on the flip side of the Ohio coin, where they have a really good wideout and he did most of the damage against Rutgers, we had 7 players make a reception today. And that's really important because even though obviously we had a leader of the pack in Cam Vaughn, There's 6 other guys that have the capacity to get open and get the ball. And we haven't talked about Nico, but boy, when you think of a guy who's waited as long as he did, and he really, really, really came through, looked very poised. And we didn't talk much about the quarterback room. We felt we didn't need to talk much about, if any, because it's strong. And boy, was that shown today. No matter which quarterback they put in, that person acquitted himself really well with one long touchdown run.
Yeah. Nico was solid all around. And then when the backups did come in, they all looked good too. Running the ball. The Wilkins, you didn't get to see much of what he could do, but you saw what Scotty Fox, they just had mentioned on the broadcast that Rodriguez felt like he was the best runner of all of them, and then he breaks through sort of 59-yard touchdown run. So yeah, the quarterbacks I thought all performed solidly, and which is encouraging. I thought the running backs were all good. Again, I thought the receivers made some catches. I mean, when they make catches like they were making, they don't stand out. But if you watch a replay of it, you think, man, that was a pretty good catch. Vaughn had a couple of those. Bray had one where it's a tough catch, and they caught the ball. Again, if you think back to years past, we had a lot of trouble dropping passes. We dropped the ball, and we didn't see that today. So, I think all those things are positives. You don't know, again, when you consider the opponent, how good it is, but just looking at those little things like that, I think you can see some good bright spots no matter who you're playing against. It don't make any difference who you're playing against. If you're flying to the ball, you're flying to the ball. If you're catching passes, you're catching passes. If you're throwing a good ball, you're throwing a good ball. If you're running it well, you're running it well. So regardless of who you're playing. So I think some real positives from this, and I think it gives you momentum going into this second game, which will be a little tougher, I think, and which leads up to the third game. You just don't want to. You got to make sure they're not looking forward to the Pitt game next week. You got to get focused on Ohio, take care of that business, and keep improving, keep getting better. Like Mike said, there's always those 4 or 5 plays that were bad that you got to work on. You work on things. You can bet there's going to be ball security drills this week in practice for all those guys. They were throwing, let it down all over the field, but the positive, I think, far outweigh any negatives that we had today. And Frank, I'll get your thoughts there.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I agree with you completely. Spot on. It's I'm so glad we're having this conversation because I was really worried in the first half. The team, the enthusiasm was there, the physicality was there, but it wasn't. I was concerned it was going to be here we go again, the same pattern as last year. Score. How many times last year did we score first, or scored at least in our first drive, and then it was really struggling after that, and the defense didn't help us out. But one of the things that my wife and I, Kathy, were talking about in the first half, the defense showed up in the first half, and then the offense immediately scored. And so, thank God we've got a positive ending to a story that could have gone a different way. But again, we have to realize so many moving parts, and these guys are learning to play together. Many of them learning to play together for the first time. And so the other thing I'd say, Greg, is that, and maybe I shouldn't say this because maybe it's not fair in the larger scheme of things, but it seemed to me the coaching made a difference today. The coaching made a difference. You talked earlier in the pregame show about schemes. Those schemes look solid. We also talked in the pregame show about execution. And it seemed to me that the schemes and the execution of the schemes were much better today than what we saw most last year. And again, that's not meant to be a criticism, just a description of what I observed.
Yeah, and we talked about the fact that we lost a defensive coordinator, Koenig, I think was his name, Koenig. And then it wasn't replaced, and it was a late fill in, and it just seemed like the schematics were not good. The players didn't understand what they were supposed to do, where they were supposed to go, et cetera, et cetera. And again, not a knock on any coaches. And it's just the way things turned out. But like you said today, it just seemed like everybody was on the same page. When you look at our offensive execution, everything seemed smooth. Even if we didn't complete the play or complete the pass, the execution was still there rather than completing the ball. And with Nico, it only happened 3 times where we didn't complete it. But even in the run game, you didn't have you didn't have people, missing assignments, blocks, and that sort of thing, and getting people smacked. Everything, the execution just seemed to be there. Defensively, the same way. A lot of people don't understand. There's 11 moving parts out there on defense. Yeah, we can blitz, but if you blitz, there's other things to make sure that doesn't get exposed. And I felt like our just the defensive execution was just as good as the offensive execution. Again, Mike, you played at a different level, so you understand. You like to get your take on that.
Well, for the most part, in most of my path, while I played, the defenses usually are just on a good team. The defenses are just a little bit ahead of the offenses until they get all that mechanics worked out. Usually, today was a good day for our defense in particular because, the last bunch of years we've seen a lot of third and whatevers convert, and I'm not talking about third and shorts, third and 15s and more. We've seen a lot of that convert. I mean, that's just like a heartbreaker. You know what I'm saying? So so this game in particular, I've seen a lot of stuff getting shut down. I've seen a lot of people covering some receivers. I've seen a lot of penetration and push on the pocket. So I mean, that's a big step in the right direction. I mean, a big step in the right direction because you're going to need all that and a whole lot more to get through this season. So I like the first steps that they took on defense, and then I definitely like they did enough. The defense did enough to hold the game together until the second half, where we was able to come out with some firepower and put some more points on the board. Because nowadays 21 or even 28 points is not enough on the board against any real team. These teams have firepower and they got mechanics like you ain't never seen. In the old days, 21 points would be a whole big lot to overcome. But 20 they were probably up to 28 points now or more. But let's just say 28 points in particular. People can actually overcome 28 points and a half. So we just definitely want to make sure we keep our foot on the gas. That's how I see it. So defense holds out long enough and does their job till the offense clicks into gear, and then all of a sudden, the offense is humming. So it's always good. It's a third, a third, a third. So if you get all your thirds going, guess what? You're gonna, you can win. That's a big deal. So that's how I see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, I know we keep harking back to last year, but how many times last year did we see, the offense, like you said, Frank, go right down the field, score a touchdown, and then the defense go out and give up, a 70-yard drive, 5 plays, and then the offense sputter, and then the defense give up another score, or a 3rd and 15 and they pick up 20 over. I mean, we just saw that so many times over and over. And today, with those turnovers, that's tough on a defense, to get off the field, and then 2 plays later you got to turn around and go right back on the field again after a turnover. And we had that several times today, and the defense came right out and just clamped down. And the only reason they got the 3 was the fact that we fumbled back in our own territory deep. But, they didn't do anything offensively there to get that 3 points. We snuffed them out, and they had to kick the field goal. So, I thought we did a yeoman's job defensively. I just thought our defense was stellar. And Frank, I think you put that up 9 penalties today for 69 yards. And that's a little bit deceiving because, several of those penalties came in the fourth quarter when we had backups in there on the offensive line. We had, I think, 2 false starts on that, and maybe a holding penalty there as well. So though the penalties, 9 penalties, really you could probably cut that in half if you think about when the game mattered. So I thought that was that, and we got a penalty on the first play of the game, which was a late hit out of bounds on the opening kickoff. So the penalties I thought were we played pretty clean. Didn't have a lot of penalties. I think we had one penalty on the defensive back, which was very questionable. We had a block in the back on a kick return, which was extremely questionable. So a couple of those penalties probably shouldn't have been necessarily called, but and then 2 or 3 of them were called on the late in the game. So really, you probably look at maybe three penalties that we had that mattered during the game, 4 maybe. So I thought we played a good, clean game, and I thought all around it was just it was a good showing, and I think we accomplished what we needed to accomplish. We got to see people play, we got to see our execution, we got to see things to work on. Saw a lot of good things that we did, so I'm pretty positive about that. And that another stat you put up there, 7.1 yards per rush. That's pretty daggone good right there. They had 1.4 yards per rush. So again, clicking on both sides of the ball. So I thought we did a great job. And Frank, I mean to stop there and leave you guys hanging, but next week we got Ohio. We want to talk. We don't want to run out of time before we talk a little bit about that game. I think that'll be a little bit tougher than what we had today. But I think after what I saw today, I feel much better about next week's game.
Yeah, that's the I put up the names that I was mentioning earlier. Please take note of that quarterback, Parker Vaccaro. He was essentially offensively a one-person wrecking crew, and even Bangura had he had his yards. It was Parker Vaccaro who led both in passing and rushing, and he threw mostly to Chase Hendricks, the wide receiver, and then the 2 guys who did most of the damage. That's interesting. The safety led the defense in terms of tackles, total tackles, and solo together, and Jack Freeze, the linebacker. And so, they're a good team. It'll be interesting to see what the line is for that game, because obviously it's played in Athens. But it's going to be. We know what we have to work on, and it's pretty clear, I think, that they know what they have to work on from that first game. So we'll see.
Yeah, and it's when you have your safety as your leading tackler, it might indicate some problems in the run game, and I think that somebody had mentioned on the comments there that they were a little bit porous on the run defense, which bodes well for us because I think our running game is going to be strong, and I think that's going to be a huge advantage for us. We'll have to contain that quarterback, but I think offensively, I don't think we're going to have a lot of trouble moving the ball. And that's key to score the points. And if our running game just is as good as we think it's going to be, and they have a poor run defense, then that could bode well for us. And like I said, I feel a lot better about next week now than I did before talking about it. Just after seeing us play, I feel like I think we're going to be okay. I'm encouraged by what I saw today. And Mike, your thoughts on next week?
Well, I mean, I definitely think West Virginia took a step in the right direction today, and I think it'll be a competitive game next week. Probably better than we all think, but I think we can win that game. With the defense, as porous as it sounds, we can really put the pressure on them. Might be a great day to work on our run game. So we'll just see how that pans out.
Yeah, and Frank, one thing I did want to mention to you, and I don't know if you guys noticed or not, was the punter. Last year he boomed his punts, and today it seemed like he struggled a little bit. And I missed one of the punts, but it didn't seem to me like he kicked the ball very well. Did you notice that?
Yeah, in fact, I should have mentioned it when I mentioned. I said you don't have to worry about the pregame show. You don't have to worry about Oliver Straw. And I looked at the numbers, and let me pull those up again. I think it was he was under 40 average today. Let me get it. And one that was really brought down by one punt that was just not good at all. Three
Right.
punt, 37.7 average, and his longest was only 42. Now again, I didn't look to see what the wind was doing in Morgantown, but that's again, it's pretty clear, obviously, what needs to be worked on, and you just can't have that again. You know, when you're playing on the road, this goes back to what Mike said. Special teams will come back to kill you, and you just 30 for someone of his caliber, 37.7. You would really like to see that about 42 to 45 for someone of his vintage. He's been around and he's very capable. But that one punt, again, the defense came through over and over again. I think he shanked that one punt to the left, and the defense came up. Yeah.
Yeah, the last one was 33 yards, and I did see that, and the announcer did say he shanked it, so it wasn't the wind. Yeah, he just missed it. So yeah, I was wondering about that. I thought, well, maybe he's injured or something. I didn't know, but last year he showed how capable he was, and then struggled a little bit today. But again, I guess everything can't be perfect, or you wouldn't need the coaches. But that's something again. Kicking game with the punts and the kickoffs. Obviously, they want to work on that and try to improve. It wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible, but it can be better, I think. And again, down the road against a more quality opponent, you want those things shored up for sure. The game next week is at Athens, like you said. And what's the time on that, Frank? Is it 4 o'clock? Is that what? Okay, well, I thought it was 4 o'clock. So we'll come on about what 2:30, I guess.
Yep, we'll put it right over here now. There we go. We'll come on at 2:30. It's going to go on the screen in a second, and then as always, the post game will be no more than a half an hour after the final gun. And so one of the things I think to look at this again, I always look for patterns to see how the Big 12 teams do tonight. It's going to be a very interesting game, TCU against North Carolina, for pretty obvious reasons, with Bill Belichick coming back. I shouldn't say coming back, but coaching at the college level. And as we mentioned in the pregame show, a number of Big 12 teams have already lost. Cincinnati, Baylor, obviously Kansas State. They played Iowa State. And we see Colorado. What was the other team? Baylor, Colorado, TCU, Cincinnati, and Kansas State. So let's see how the Big 12 teams do. I was going to ask you guys, what did you think about the Texas and Ohio State game, not only in terms of the outcome, but any other things that come to mind as you think about that game now that you've had a while since the final gun there?
Hey, Mike.
Well, I personally think it's interesting to start with that Texas came out at number 3, but since the committee's down in that state as far as the who votes for what, so they put their Texas team number 1. But I really thought in my heart before the game, I thought Ohio State was going to win that game. So I'm glad they beat them. So it just sets the tone for their season the way I see it. So, I'm not saying Texas ain't a top 3 or 5 opponent, but I didn't think they'd be number 1 coming out of the box.
No, and I agree. I thought Ohio State would win the game, but I felt like with the quarterback situation in Texas, I just felt like no matter what his name is, that's a lot of pressure for your first real start. I mean, I know he started a few games last year, but this is his team now. I thought that was a lot of pressure on him, and I wondered how he would perform. And that's a quality opponent, obviously defending national champs. And I kind of felt like Ohio State would win for that reason. And they're pretty good. Texas is good too. I don't know. You haven't seen everybody play yet, so it's hard to tell. Yet who the top of the food chain is, but those teams are going to be ranked up there no matter what. But I also thought C.J. Dawson looked pretty good.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have him back.
Well, no matter what, that flight back to Austin is obviously not happy. But I didn't know this until my brother-in-law told me today. You guys may have known that there some wagerer in Texas put $550,000 on the Longhorns to win that game. So if you think someone is crying in their soup today, I think probably throwing the soup bowl against the wall. Can you imagine that? $1.5 million plus that now is out of his pocket or her pocket. I don't know.
Well, Frank, that's the way I look at that. If I had $550,000 just to gamble with, I'd probably be happy no matter what. I don't bet $5. I'm afraid to lose $5.
Yeah.
Here's another way to look at it. You guys know what Vegas looks like, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of lights there, right?
That's right.
That's a big electric bill out there. So that 500 and something grand gonna be paying somebody's electric out that way.
That's right.
Go keep the place lit up. That's right.
Well,
somebody got to pay for it, right?
It's it's crazy. It's crazy. As I mentioned, Greg, we're going to be back. We're going to, obviously, as you mentioned, we're going to be here for the pregame show at 2:30 next Saturday before the Ohio game. But we're also, let me put this up to remind folks or to tell folks if they don't know that we have a Wednesday show, Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. We're very, very pleased to have Quincy Wilson with us, and he'll be with us Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And we're looking forward to that. Quincy, for people who followed WVU back when he played, he gave, and you can see Rich Rod, by the way, in that graphic looking as he's doing the straight arm there. But what a lot of thrills. I know for you, Greg, a lot of thrills and a lot of memories of Quincy.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I'm old enough to watch him actually play basketball in the state basketball tournament when he was a senior in high school in Charleston. And he was a heck of a basketball player too. But he had a good career at WVU, and like I said before, whenever you're a Mountaineer fan and you think of Quincy Wilson, the first thing that pops into your mind is him trucking the Miami defensive back who was an All-American, and Quincy ran right over top of him on the way down the field for a score, I think, and posterized him, as they say. And I think Quincy even told me he had a poster of that on his wall to this day. So that'll be a lot of fun to talk to him. Great football player, coaching now, and it'll be fun to talk to Quincy Wednesday night. Looking forward to that for sure. Mike, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you, your input, your insights are awesome, and we are definitely going to get you back in the fold here more regularly and keep you active in this platform, because I think he's a natural. Frank, what do you think?
Oh, there's no question. And the great thing about Mike is that is the voice of experience, not I mean, we're talking about deep experience, not only at West Virginia, but also with 2 pro teams and playing in huge games. In fact, what I did, Mike, and I was telling my wife today, I actually went back and looked at that film in the Super Bowl against the Bills. And I'm saying, okay, number 93, where is he? He's there. If I had a bottle of scotch, I still would have seen you out there because you were the biggest thing on that line. And when you were on the show a couple Wednesdays ago, you talked about that was an incredible play, existential play, biggest play probably of the career of most of the guys. And
there's
your leg,
that third I'm telling you about.
Yes, that third. if you go back, and I encourage everyone to do this, you'll see Mike's right leg just going back and forth, hike that ball, and then you see the Bills line going back. And, you know, it ruined Norwood's life because that kick went wide right. Say that 10 times. But his life was never the
Yeah.
same after that. But what a hell of a play that was.
Yeah, I mean, very good Buffalo Bills football team, let me tell you. So
That's right.
when we were staring down the barrel of playing them, those boys were averaging 60 points a game.
Oh.
60 points a game in the playoffs. So that's a whole lot of points. I mean, that's like a point a minute, you know. So definitely was a big challenge. Big challenge.
Yeah, a lot of great stars.
Glad I got to do it.
And boy, you know, a lot of great stars. That's what you want in the Super Bowl. You want the best of the best, and that's what you had. And you know, two great coaches too. When you think of the head coaches back there, Marv Levy, and of course, your head coach. You know, these guys were. It was Bill Parcells. It was a marquee game. So that's what you want in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you know, the irony of some of this is Bill Polian was the general manager for the Buffalo Bills at the time. And then as time moved on, then they created the Carolina Panthers, and then he became the general manager down there. So then all of a sudden they're looking for players to come down to Carolina, and I was one of them. So
yeah,
you never know how far your resume takes you. That's all I'm saying.
Well, you know, we're lucky to have a great AD at West Virginia, and for my money, I don't think Bill Polian's name gets. I mean, he's very well respected, but if he isn't in the top 3 GMs of all time, I don't know who is. He was when you consider what he was able to do at a small market. Buffalo's a small market. You know, it's and to be able to do what he did he had an eye for talent, and they picked folks that other teams just didn't look at very carefully, and they became stars. So, yeah.
And if you go back and do a little research on Bill Polian, you'll see that it started way back in the day at Kansas City Chiefs when he was a scout for them. So, you know, you gotta learn how to pick the produce, right? So,
that's right.
Food for the meal. So he's definitely a talent. So
yeah, that's right. Wow, that was a great thing.
Frank, you mentioned you know, having Mike. What makes it good is he comes from a voice of experience. He's not like he's not like two bullshitters that don't really know what they're talking about. He knows what he's talking about. That makes the show better.
No, actually, I wouldn't agree with you because, you know, we didn't play at the level that Mike did, obviously, but, you know, we do our homework and we have an analysis, but there's always that, you know, that practitioner's perspective that can't be replaced. You know, I dealt with this for years as being a professor, because you're standing up there in front of people. And then one of the things I did, and my wife did too, it said, hey, the faculty member doesn't have to stand behind a lectern. Get out in the field and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Work with these people. And, you know, my classes became, I think, much more effective because I could talk about practice experience, and the people who were in class, many of whom were practitioners, you know, yeah, sure, this way, that way. And it was great. So, and you were a coach, you know, you were a long and successful coach. So, but it's really great. You get a blending of perspectives, always makes it better.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mike, again, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, but I want to ad lib on that. I want to ad lib a little bit on, you know, the experiences and this and that. The most interesting thing to me at this stage of the game, as far as, you know, with how we're communicating and talking, and I know you guys remember this, you know, a while back, you know, most people were you were just quiet. You were told to be quiet, you know, do your job and just basically shut up. So, but now, you know, we're allowed to actually discuss things that matter. that maybe might, rub off onto somebody that can actually, help them for whatever is going on in their future. So, I mean, the new world of communication, especially about, with the athletes on these podcasts, I think it's good for the whole universe as far as athletics is concerned, because people learn from other people. So that's the bottom line. So, and if you've been in the trenches or in the experiences, then you definitely, you want to share it with the people that want to hear the real deal. You know what I'm saying? So I enjoy it. So thank you.
Absolutely. And like I said, it is good to have different perspectives, and that helps us, and put these shows on. Uh, People don't want to hear. It's like watching when you talk about that. You watch these shows on ESPN and these different channels, and these guys are on here. They clearly are told, you take this side, you take this side, and y'all argue about it. And I, for one, really could care less about that. I hate listening to that stuff because number one, I know they're making up their arguments as they go, and it's for show, and it's not real good analysis a lot of times, and you don't always get good. And the other thing is that that you tell if they're talking about a subject about that they don't do a lot of research on it, and because they don't, you can tell by what they say, they don't really know, and in a lot of cases they don't know any more than what we know. And when you listen to them and realize that, it makes it hard to listen to sometimes. And I'm not saying that we know more than anybody else knows, but we have our perspectives, and it's nice to share that with people. And then you get comments from people, like a Mark Parsons, for example, who knows a lot about the game and about the program, and it gives you again another perspective, and you learn so much just by talking with folks. And I think you're right, Mike. It's a great platform to help people and get people involved, and maybe teach them something. Who knows? And they may teach us something. So that's what it's all about. So
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is this is a great way to get a really good, real message out to people that really are paying attention to what matters. And I just think that's just like right on. And you hear it from the people that's done it. You hear it from the people that study it. I'm going to say that for the most part, they could be the judge on whether they believe it or not. But I just think it's a good thing. It's a very good thing. So
Great.
all right, well, Frank, Mike, it's going to wrap us up here for this hour post game show. It looks like it's coming to an end, and again, Mike, we appreciate you and your help and your insights. We're definitely going to have you back on the weekly show and on these pre and post game shows. Like I said, I think you're natural at it. Added so much to it, and we surely do appreciate it. We want to remind everybody again, we will be on the air Wednesday night live with the Mountaineer Locker Room then and now. Quincy Wilson will be our guest on Wednesday. Looking forward to that. I know it's going to be a good time. I had Quincy on my show back a couple years ago, and it was a great interview, and we had a lot of fun on there. So I know Wednesday night's going to be fun as well. So we hope everybody will tune in and watch us on that. We're excited to bring it to you, and we're excited to bring you these pre and post game shows. We'll be back next week with the Ohio game as well. So don't forget that. Spread the word. Let people know that we're going to be on here. For Frank, for Mike, I'm Greg. We appreciate you again tuning in to the WVU post-game show. Great day to be a Mountaineer. As Cody Creedy always says, wherever you may be. Good win today, solid win. Look forward to next week. Guys, appreciate you, and have a great evening.